Hey there, it's Jen for Altenew, and today I want to share two Halloween-themed layouts with you using non-themed products. So for this first layout, I wanted to create something that was a little bit more sophisticated of a look. So what I've done here, I'm already kind of halfway through the planning process, but what I want to do is stamp these flowers from the Flower Garden stamp set and color them in with the brand new metallic watercolors to give them kind of an orangey look. And I am talking about how my costume, I don't really dress up for Halloween. My costume this year was these little, this headband with the cat ears on it. And so that's what I wanted to talk about for this layout. So my plan is to create some flowers, and I think I'm going to do them all orange. That was my practice flower there, using some orange and some of the kind of silvery color. But I've layered up a little piece of that polka dot paper, which is my favorite from the Live Your Dream collection, along with just a little tiny hint of that spiderweb paper from my stash. But the rest of the stuff comes from Altenew, and I'm going to go ahead and get started by stamping out some more of these flowers that I can color in and use with these metallic watercolors. I already cut my title out of that Bold Alpha die set, and I'm stamping the smaller part of my title with this Block Alpha stamp set. And I'm just using the shadow portion. I thought it would look kind of cool to just do the shadow. So that's where I'm going to start. And I'm just going to grab some black cardstock. I'm putting some powder down so that my embossing powder only sticks where I want it to. I'm grabbing my Altenew embossing ink, and I'm just going to stamp some flowers down on this black piece of scrap cardstock that I have. So I'm just going to do 3 different florals, the largest one, and then 2 of the smaller ones. You can't really see what's going on right now, but once I sprinkle the embossing powder on, you'll see it. And I'm going to use the platinum embossing powder from Altenew. And it's a very pretty kind of in between silver and gold. I would say it leans more to the gold or champagne side, but it's a really pretty color. There are a few spots where there were some flakes of that embossing powder that I didn't want it, so I just brushed them off. And now I'm heating up my heat tool and going to emboss these until they're smooth and melted. Sorry, I'm a little out of frame down there at the bottom, heating those up. But embossing is one of those things that still is magical to me. I love the way that it just magically is shiny and beautiful. So I'm going to mostly use this bright, well, I start by making these flowers very different than the way that they end up. I thought it might look nice to have some of that lighter orange color. It's kind of a coppery color. So I'm starting with that, and then I'll add some kind of details with that darker orange. But later you'll see I'm going to go back and change it all to the darker orange. It just looks a lot better and a lot prettier. You can see this flower that I'm painting right now is all that darker reddish orange, and it turns out really pretty. So I decide to go back on the other ones and fix them. Plus, my daughter came in while I was creating this, and she's like, I don't like those, Mom. So if your almost 14-year-old tells you that it's not cute, then maybe it's not. So I decided to change it. And I think that maybe the color was just too close to the embossed color or something. I don't know. But I do like it a lot better with that kind of darker orange color. So even though I'm kind of painting in some different areas right now, I will come back to these and switch them up in a little bit. Before I do that, I'm going to take my title, and what I wanted to do was add some of that platinum embossing powder to my letters. And I'm just taking my embossing ink and kind of dragging it along the bottom half of the letters, and then I will sprinkle them with powder and heat emboss them. So they kind of have the bottom half of them are embossed, but I didn't want a completely straight edge, so that's why I just took the ink pad directly to the letter rather than, like, if I wanted a straight line, I could have used a post-it note or something to mask it, but that isn't what I was really going for. So I'm going to heat each one of these letters, and I should have used some tweezers because I almost burnt my fingers off, but it ends up turning out just fine. And I think that these turned out really cute. I would definitely do this again. I think it would have looked really cute if I did this with white embossing powder on the bottom as well. But I like kind of the sophistication of that platinum powder. And again, this is the layout that I wanted to create, that more sophisticated feel, because it's me and my husband, and we're not really dressed up anyway. I did want it to be Halloween-ish, but not too much. So I had this little scrap of this Botanical, I can't remember what this washi tape is called. It'll be linked though. But I had a little scrap of it left over on a piece of wax paper, and so I just decided to layer it underneath my other papers, just using it as another kind of piece of patterned paper. And the Altenew washi tape is great for that because it's some of the washi tapes are so large, and it works out really awesome. And I really liked the idea of having that black and white botanical print because I have those florals that are going to go on the layout as well, so it kind of fits in with that look. I'm just popping up my photo. I'm using some foam, fun foam, and I am going ahead and matting that. This is kind of the part where I decide I don't like the look of that, and where my daughter comes and tells me she hates it too. So I turned off the camera for a minute, and I went ahead and repainted those and popped up my title. And now I am stamping some leaves behind my flowers, and I decided to stamp them directly on that light gray background. And I really think that this helps those flowers feel like they belong on this layout because the leaves are stamped directly on the background. And I also really like how the leaves are just stamped in the black. It has a nice kind of airy feel to it, but also that nice black contrast. And I didn't really want to add greenery as far as florals go for this particular layout. So I think that helps the Halloween vibe a little bit. So now I'm popping up some of the floral pieces, and I'm going to glue down the one underneath the photo as well. And I'm just cutting some foam to fit behind it. And I like the way that this ends up looking on the metallic watercolors. Look different on white cardstock than they do on black, and so I really like the black. Plus, when I die cut them out, they have a tiny bit of a black edge, so I really like that effect that this had. So I would definitely recommend, if you haven't tried it, especially for a Halloween type layout, to try stamping your florals on black. Even if you don't paint them with the metallic watercolors, they look really cool embossed. So I thought that I would grab just a couple things from my stash to add to the Halloween type feel of this. And so I just have those two little die cuts there that I'm going to add to the left of my photo. And then I decided to grab this geometric stencil. I can't remember what, I think it's called Linear. Yeah, the Linear stencil. And it kind of had a spider web vibe to me, and so I thought it would be cool for this layout. Again, I'm keeping the sophistication by, it kind of looks like a doily, but it also kind of has that spooky vibe. So I really like the way that this turned out. So I'm just using some, I think it's Silver Lake gray ink to add a little bit of ink around that stencil, and I am going over the edge just slightly because I do want to see the edge of the stencil. And then I'm going to add just a teeny tiny bit of it down at the bottom below my photo as well. And I really like the way that that came out. And then the last thing that I decide to do, well, maybe the last thing, I wonder if I forgot to journal on this layout. No, I didn't. Okay, I'm just getting a little bit ahead of myself. So at this point, I decide to go ahead and stick down those little die cuts, and I'm going to do my journaling, and I'm going to kind of rest it in between the leaves to the left of the photo, and you'll see that here in a minute. Before I do that, I was thinking about adding in another die cut, that bat possibly, but I decided against it. It felt too cutesy compared to the rest of everything else. So yeah, I decided against it. But I think now I'm going to go in, I'm going to splatter. I wanted to have some really sparkly, shimmery splatters, so I used that same orange that I used to color in the flowers to splatter, and it's the most beautiful metallic shimmery splatter ever. So if you are looking for some metallic splatters, these watercolors do the trick for sure. I think I add my journaling off camera, but you'll see at the end. So this second layout, I wanted to keep it a little bit more funky and fresh, and so I'm doing a photo of my daughter and my niece, and they are dressed up as characters from Big Hero 6. This is a few years ago. And what I did was I took that Live Your Dream Scrapbook Collection pattern paper that had the stripes on it, and I just cut out the stripes that kind of matched with the photo that I have. And I'm just going to layer them just like a little bar across the top of the layout. And I thought it would be fun to use this pattern play stamp set to create some fun, a fun pattern on my background. So to offset the horizontal stripes, I'm going to create a vertical line of stamping. And I'm going to start with these triangles. I felt like they were a really good pattern for a Halloween layout. And I'm just stamping them in the permanent crisp black. I thought I would see if the second generation looked good, but I decided to just go ahead and stamp them full strength. This second stamp is a little crooked, and I'm just not going to care about it. I could have used, a stamp platform or something like that to get them perfect, but I didn't, and I'm fine with it. So, c'est la vie. So I'm going to stamp some at the top as well, because I want it to span the entire length of the layout. And then I'm going to grab another pattern and kind of add to this. But first I'm going to glue down the stripes. I wish I hadn't glued down the stripes, because then when I add the other patterns, there was a part where I needed to peel up the stripes, but it works out. So I want my photo to stand out a little bit more, so I'm going to put it on some I'm going to mat it. I thought I would look at my pattern papers to see if there was something I wanted to mat it on, but I decided to just go with white cardstock. And so I'm just creating a small photo mat, and I often like to mat my photos with white cardstock just to help them stand out a bit. And I don't know, it has a clean look that I like. So now what I'm going to do is go back to my stamps and see what else I might want to add. And I really like the polka dot stamp set, or the polka dot stamp that's included in this set, and I decide to go ahead and stamp it with some orange. So I'm testing out a few different colors before I decide on the one that I want. That one is much too red, and so I'm thinking that I'm actually going to use Caramel Toffee, which is one of my favorite inks actually, and I am going to stamp this a few different times all around, just kind of creating some texture. Nothing perfect, and that's totally fine. I felt like I needed a little bit more at the top, so I'm going to stamp that one more time underneath where the photo's going to go. And then I'm going to see what else I want to add into this kind of vertical column of stamping. I thought it would be fun to have a color that kind of matched that greenish yellow. I could not find something that matched it exactly. But I'm going to try to find something that matches the pink, and I think I end up going with Coral Bliss or Coral Berry. I'm pretty sure it's Coral Bliss. And I referred to my ink swatches to see how it looked when it dried, and that was the closest match. So there are a couple of words, wow and yeah, on this stamp set, and I thought that would be cute to stamp kind of in these little spaces where there's a little white space between the stamping. And so I'm going to use that a few times. And then I'm going to go in with some green and do some more stamping. I'm going to pull out one of my favorite stamp sets, which is the Snapshots Stamp set. And I'm going to use a few things from that as well. I think before I get there, I'm going to mess around with some title options. I thought I would just use one of these printed words that I have from my stash, but instead I decided to make it a little bit more customized, and I'm going to end up using some puffy stickers from the Live Your Dream collection. So you'll see that here in just a minute. I popped my photo up because I like that look. And here's me playing around with a few things that don't end up working out. But I will come back to a few of those things later. So here's where I'm going to find those stickers. My title's going to be matching. These two girls love to have matching Halloween costumes. Their very first, well, my niece's very first Halloween, she actually wore a matching costume to my daughter. They were both chickens. And this year, which is 2017, they were both from Big Hero 6. And then this year, I think they're going as Mario and Luigi. They like to match their costumes. So I thought I would just talk about that just a little bit. I got some ink on my background, so I'm using a sand eraser to kind of erase that off. If you have a white background, that works really well. Here's where I pull out that Snapshots Stamp set, and I'm going to stamp some words in green. And this green doesn't really match that greenish yellow stripe, but it matches a bit of the costume in the photo, so I decided to go ahead with it anyway, and I will still include that kind of greenish yellow from the stripe. And I'm going to play around a bit because sometimes when I don't have the exact ink color that I want, I'm able to create it by layering two ink colors together. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And I'm sorry that I'm off camera, I didn't realize I was. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp the Sweet Leaf ink, and I'm going to stamp it and then stamp it off. And then when I layer Honey Drizzle on top, it ends up working out perfectly. It looks really, really nice. So here's that first kind of layer of the second generation Sweet Leaf, and then I'm going to stamp the Honey Drizzle on top, and it will give me that nice yellow-green color that I want. Perfect. And it has a cute little outline as well, so I'm going to stamp that in black. So just going to look for that. There we go. And I'm just using permanent black for all of my stamping on this layout. And then lastly, I'm going to add a little circle. And this is one of the pieces that kind of fits inside the camera, but it's a good just layering piece too. And I'm just stamping it in some gray. And I really like this, like when you have a lot of harsh lines going on, circles really help to break them up. So I felt like that was a good addition. And so I really like the way that ended up looking. So I'm going to add a couple of enamel dots as well. I'm just going to use that bright pink color and just add them kind of around the circles, just here and there. And as kind of a, I don't know, a finishing touch, not a finishing touch, but I wanted just a couple things on here that really screamed Halloween, because although you can tell from the photo and you'll be able to tell from my journaling as well that this is a Halloween layout, and I included the stars to help emphasize that, I just wanted to add just a couple of things that would help emphasize that even more. So I'm going to write my journaling first, and I decide to just write it on that green line because it will show up there and it's a nice little home for my journaling. It kind of ends up bothering me that there are spaces between the title and the journaling, so I'll fill those up with some stamping of my date stamp, and then I think I add the little puffy stickers after the camera goes off, but you'll see them in the finished photos. I just add a couple of candy corns and pumpkins, and I'm really happy with the way that this came together. So there are close-up photos, like I mentioned, coming up here in just a second, and I hope that you have enjoyed. I hope you'll try creating some Halloween layouts of your own using your Altenew products. You definitely don't have to have themed products to create a sort of themed layout. So be sure to head over to the Altenew Scrapbook blog for more info and lots more photos, and I hope that you'll subscribe to this channel, and I hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.